Today we are going to be talking about the Replicator node. It's a pretty useful node when you're creating a lot of different instances or you're trying to create a lot of scattering in your scene. So in that case, Replicator can be pretty useful. So let's quickly get into it. So the question is, if you already have a distribute node, why do you need instance? So let's say I'm going to take something else. Let's say if you have something like a cylinder, and I'm gonna reduce subdivision, right, and let's make something like this. We can make the whole thing a little hollow, and I'm gonna bridge the two faces, right? Alright, so let's say we have something that looks like this. I'm just gonna get rid of the history. And let's create mesh. Alright, so you have distribute node which already creates instances for you. You can create as much instances as you want. So the question is why you have a replicator node. Well, replicator node was made to create replications of your distribute node. So let's say you are creating a multi-scattering or a lot of instances. Then what you can do is you can create something with your distribute and you can replicate it on a larger scale. So replicator was meant to do that. So if you create something like, let's say I'm gonna choose 2 pattern only. Alright, and we'll have something that looks like this, and from the top here I'm just gonna change this to maybe like something that looks like this. Alright, this looks pretty good. And let's say we want to create a similar pattern like this. So what I can do from here, if I want to carry forward this whole thing again, what I can do is I can go here to my replicator node, click on replicator, let's add. And the first thing that you see is the replications, how many replications you want. Right now we have 0, and the transformation space for world or local. And again, you can offset the whole thing, and then you have position, ramp, scale, and the same regular stuff you have, or you have the option to connect to a curve as well. So we can use that as well. And then you have the driven channel if you want to link up that, and then you have the strength control and so on. And also you can change or control how your pattern actually behaves. We'll get into that quickly. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the amount of replications I have. So here you'll notice that we have something that looks like this, and now you have multi instances of a pattern you have created inside of your distribute. And then again you can offset this to, let's say, maybe around 1. Yeah, there you go. And now you have a perfect pattern like this, and let's have maybe somewhere like 10. So in my distribute I actually have only 2 number of points, and in my replicator I have 10 replicas of my original distribute. So this is pretty useful. Again, you can change the ramp and everything, and this is how your entire geometry will behave, or your instances will behave accordingly. If you want, you can change this. If you want to change scale together, you can change the scale of X, Y, and Z and so on. And if you want to scale this together, then you can do that as well. So it's pretty useful, and just to go for a pretty higher value and so on to have a larger scale value. And also you can do the same thing with the ramp for the scale. And with the rotation, again, you can rotate this pattern. Let me just go back and zero this out. You can rotate this. Alright, so you'll have something that looks like this, and for any axis that you like. Alright, so pretty interesting. And you have the same ramp if you want to create a ramp for this and so on. And then you have the amount of patterns. Right now we have only 2, and then you can obviously change the amount of patterns, and you can add more into it if you want to have 3 patterns, and then you can create or adjust accordingly. So this is a pretty neat, or you can say powerful tool, powerful node inside of Mesh system, because it allows you to create everything procedurally. And you can create this hexagonal pattern for your, let's say, mesh patterns for your cars and so on. So this is pretty neat. And then again you have the scale value as well, and if you want to create, and the same thing for the rotation as well. Right, so I'm gonna quickly zero this out. And then you obviously have the curve, which if I create something like a CV curve, all right, and I'm going to go to the top view. And so what you can do is you can go to your mesh, go to your replicator, and inside of your curve, what you can do is drag and drop this here, and then what you'll have is your replicators on top of your curve. So you can specify where you wanna replicate those patterns which you have in your mesh, and this is completely procedure. You can go back and change whenever you like and change your curve and everything. It is completely dynamic, and so I think that is pretty powerful for creating your instances with that much flexibility. So there you go. Again, if you decide to change the pattern, let's say if you go to the pattern and you decide to change everything, let me just increase some more in here, right? And I'm gonna add some rotation here just in case. All right, and maybe a little bit of scale. Alright, so the second pattern that I have here, the first pattern is on the inside, as you can see. Let me just increase a higher scalar value. Alright, so you'll have two patterns here. The first pattern that we have here is the reason we cannot move our transform is because we are completely placing our pattern on top of our curve. So you have two patterns right now. The first pattern, you'll notice the distribute original pattern, the smaller one. The second one that we are replicating, which we are controlling the rotation and the scale value. And so you have a lot of pattern going on inside of your, and you can have more pattern and more variations like this, so you'll get something pretty interesting. You can choose if you want to affect position, rotation, or scale only, and by disabling or enabling this. So that is quite nice with the replicator. Right, so this is how the replicator actually works. It's pretty interesting, pretty amazing when it comes to creating a lot of larger patterns. For example, let's say if you are creating something like a tunnel or something, what we can do is with this, we can create a radius of maybe somewhere like 4. Let's remove the cap. Let's have hexagon, and from here, what we can have is something like this. Maybe add some division in here, and let's extrude the faces on the inside. Let's get rid of this, and let's bridge both of them together. All right, there you go. So from here, what we can do is we can take some insert edge loops, and we can add some loops. And let's say if you wanna add a bit of randomness, we'll add some definition to our model. We'll bevel some edges, maybe 0.3, and from here let's Alright, so we have something that looks like this kind of like a sci-fi tunnel kind of thing, what we are looking for. And what I'm going to do is, we can either, if you want to loop on top of a curve, we can create a curve, or let's just try to create a simple tunnel out of this. So in the distribution, I'm going to zero everything out. Let's have maybe like one replicator. Let's create a replicator out of this, and we'll create somewhere around 20. Alright, I think the distance is good. Maybe let's add 30 replicators. Alright, and from here, what we can do is, I want to create some rotation, maybe not on the Y. I want on the Z. We'll go for maybe like something like 90. That looks pretty good. And let's say if we were to create a curve, alright, and just add some variations here just to make it interesting. Right, so we have something that looks like this. Let's go to Mesh and our replicator, and let's go to curve. Let's connect this curve quickly. Right, we have our replicators, and in the repo, let's use our GPU, and we'll create more replicators here. And we want this to be actually rotating even more. I'm gonna increase some more here. And there's one more thing that you can do. Let's say if you are locking on this pattern, and from here what you can do is you can increase the amount of distribution as well if you want to add more multipliers here. And from here, let's maybe reduce the scale value here just so we can add less replicators. Right, there you go. Alright, so we do have some issues with the rotation, and apart from that you'll have something like this. Let's maybe have a open spline for now. I don't wanna waste much of my time fixing this right now for the replicators, and maybe some other time. And let's see if you have this kind of like a sci-fi tunnel. So what I want to do in this, the main thing I want to do in this is I want to affect the scale to go maybe like a -4, and I want to copy this. I'm going to paste this here, right? So just so we have few patterns that look smaller, and then you can obviously add, if you want to add more randomization, we can increase the amount of pattern just to create that. So I'll have 2, and let's maybe do one more thing. Let's add maybe like a positive scale, just so we don't have to deal with a lot of okay. And I think I want to increase some more rotation in here, maybe like 360. Yeah, looks good. Maybe add more replicators to 120. Yeah. And let's see the inside pattern, how much scale difference we have. I think it's a lot, so let's maybe go to 1, and now let's quickly check it out. Maybe like 0.4, 0.2. Alright, I think actually 2 was, let's make it 1. Alright, and maybe a pattern value of 2 is good. Okay, now once you're here, and what we can do from here is we can take a secondary camera and select your camera, select your knobs, and we can go to animation, constraint, motion path, attached to motion path. And there you go. So now you have this camera attached to your spline, your curve, and it will animate from start to end. So let me just fix this whole thing quickly. The orientation, let's maybe have a -90. There you go. Let's have a camera, and maybe let's set it up to something like maybe like a 1K, just so we have square frame. Alright, so there you go. And now what we can do is we can go through our tunnel and so on. Alright, maybe I'm just gonna, what I'm gonna do is quickly, instead of attaching this right here, let's maybe go for like 350 frames. Alright, and select your camera again, constraint, attach to motion path, and make it 90. You can also go to the graph editor or F-curve, and you can change the keyframe as well. Now let's say if we were to shade this, if you are making this, let's create a new material, go to shader, go to stand surface, You can shade it whatever you want. Just have some kind of emission material. I'm gonna create one metalness material with maybe like having a 0.4 roughness, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create one emission. So either you can go for something like a outside emission. Let's create this, and I'm gonna call this like blue emissive material, right? And from here you can take an incandescent bulb. Alright, and in the emission, maybe let's take somewhere like blue color and have an emission value of 2. And the second thing that you want to do is you can create another set of emission. On the inside, you can create assign new material, shader, standard surface. And again, do the same thing. You can create an incandescent. Let's have maybe somewhere like orange or something like that. Have a 2 emission. We'll call this orange emissive, right? So there you go. And there's nothing much we want to add here. Maybe another line of emission, but if you want to, let's maybe transform this even further. What we can do is key face together off. You can scale this. We can extrude this on the inside, and then we can assign that blue emission. So now we have something that looks like this. Alright, let's hide this again and turn on our mesh. Alright, so this is what we are looking. I'm not using any lights right now. If you want, we can add more lights in the scene. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn on my IPR just so we can preview how it looks. And if you have Arnold 2023 or 4, let's have Imager, and we can use maybe like a lens effect. Let's have a bloom of maybe like 2. Right, I'm just gonna make sure I have Anki square. Yeah, there you go. Right, so the emission is not that high right now, so I'm just gonna go a little higher right now, just so I see a little bit of emission. And we can also switch this to our GPU. And also what I'm gonna do is let's quickly add one point light, and maybe somewhere like here. Alright, so I'm working with no volumes right now. Alright, but if you feel like, we are gonna add some volume. Alright, so this is how it looks. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna increase some more radius in here, and with our mask selected, let's quickly go to the emission. Let's increase some emission in here, and I think that's too much, and we'll fix that. So let's maybe have a little bit of less bloom side. Right, we'll increase a bit more radius, and let's have a little bit less of this. Okay, so this is how it looks. And yes, so if you play this, actually, let me just go back. Let's go to our camera. Let's play this. So now you have this nice sci-fi looking tunnel animation. And now let's see if you want to animate this. What else you can do is, since we have already covered our random node, what you can also do is either you can go to your rotation and you can start keyframing this, or you can also add a little bit of random. Turn off the position completely. You can have a little bit of rotation and so on, maybe like on the Z, and you'll have this rotation as well. So you can keyframe this as well. And again, you can change the scale or a little bit of jagginess if you keyframe position as well. Apart from this, what you can do is maybe change the values on replicator as well. If you like, what you can do is you can go to first frame, you can right click, set key, and go to last frame. So I'm just, so we can see, I'm gonna go to 250, and maybe let's add more rotation in here, and let's right click, set key again. So if you go to our first frame, you can start you can see the whole animation starts. It's pretty slow though, so I think maybe we should add a bit more. And let's see this in this mode. Alright, so the value is pretty low. I'm gonna change the value again a little higher. Okay, there you go. So now we can see the overall rotation actually being applied to our scene. Alright, so now you'll have this nice looking tunnel animation. So this is how you can use a replicator. This is just one of the example of what you can do with a replicator. So if you add more details to your object with the distribute or with the modeling and stuff, you'll get to have more amounts of detail on your replicator. So you can add more patterns and so on. So you can have more amount of pattern going on, and then if you like, you can change the position, you can change the scale and also the rotation and everything and so on. So yeah, this is pretty much it. So enjoy the Replicator Node, come up with something interesting ideas, create some sci-fi abstract and enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video.